Friends, this topic is also very important from periodontics because a lot of time you may get question out of this topic, that is NUG or NUP, that is necrotizing ulcerative gingivitis and necrotizing ulcerative periodontitis. What are the features of NUG or NUP? The main features are BPP. First is bleeding on probing, second is pain, third is punched out papilla. If in the history nothing is given from these three main symptoms, then it cannot be a lesion of necrotizing ulcerative gingivitis. For you to come to the diagnosis of NUG or NUP, at least 2 out of these must be present in case of history and periochart. Also, in addition to these things, patient also may complain of foul smell or halitosis. He can say that he is having fever, he is having lymphadenopathy. The difference between NUG and NUP is, in NUG, that is necrotizing ulcerative gingivitis, there is no clinical attachment loss that is present, but in case of necrotizing ulcerative periodontitis, bone loss or clinical attachment loss is present. Let's find out how it represents on a periochart. Let's say this is 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 4 1 5 and 1 6. The probing depth are 2 2 2 3 3 3 3 2 1 1 1 1. Then recession nowhere. Bleeding on probing is present everywhere. If in the case history nothing is mentioned and you are presented with this periochart and you are asked to find out the diagnosis, friends, this is a case of gingivitis associated with plaque only. But let's say in the additional information it is given patient feels severe pain and ulcers on his gingiva. Now this additional information has completely changed our view towards this periochart. Pain is present and there are ulcers on his gingiva. So out of 3 conditions, B, P, P, this thing is present, pain, papilla, lesions on the papilla are present. Also bleeding is present everywhere. Friends, now this becomes a case of necrotizing ulcerative gingivitis. Friends, sometimes in the additional information they don't give anything. They just show you a picture and they may write down patient feels halitosis and then they present you with this periochart. Always look at the picture carefully. So if you find lesions on the papilla area of the periodontium, take it as a case of generalized necrotizing ulcerative gingivitis. Let's say everything remains same and here you have, now since you have bone loss here at these 3 locations, so it becomes a case of necrotizing ulcerative periodontitis. In case of necrotizing ulcerative gingivitis and necrotizing ulcerative periodontitis, most of the times the oral hygiene of the patient is very poor, that he does not take care of his teeth properly. Let's focus on this periochart and case history. Age is 50 years. Chief complaint is severe pain in the upper posterior teeth. History of chief complaint, tooth number 15, that is maxillary right, second premolar, has severe tenderness on percussion along with swelling. So basically 15 has a lot of pain when patient bites and there is swelling as well for the past 1 week. EPT and cold test are positive. This means the vitality tests, these are positive. This represents that the tooth is vital. Tooth is vital. This is the buccal part of the perio chart. This is the lingual part of the perio chart. Just look here, 1 4, 1 5 and 1 6, 2 2 1, 7 8 7. This probing depth was very much normal. This is 7 8 7. So there is severe clinical attachment loss that is present. 2 2 4. Same way here, under 1 5 it's 6 7 7. Friends, you are presented with this perio chart. You have been given this information that this tooth is vital. It has lot of pain. Always when they give you some information, there is a reason for that. At very few occasions they mislead you with the information given. Most of the time the information that is presented to you plays a very important role when you want to come to a particular diagnosis. Friends, look at this case history and perio chart. Age is 50 years. Patient says his upper tooth hurts when he bites. History of chief complaint, tooth 1-5 is tender on percussion. The vitality tests are negative. In last case, vitality test was positive. Here vitality test is negative. Oral hygiene is poor. Buccal probing depth is 332, 494, 456. So if you see that the lesion, the probing depth was 3 or somewhat in the 4 or 5, here it's 9 millimeter. On the lingual, 432, 333, 444. Friends, there is a very deep pocket at one side. Vitality test is negative. Oral hygiene is poor. This is a case of endoperio lesion. Friends, endoperio lesions are of three types: endoperio lesion, perioendo lesion and true combined lesions. Let's say a patient was having very bad oral hygiene, so there was clinical attachment loss everywhere. Because of the perio problem, if the problem it continues in the endo part, or it goes into it affects the pulp tissue of the tooth and the tooth becomes non-vital, then it is a perioendo problem. In another case, let's say patient was having endo problem, the tooth was non-vital and that led to the formation of a very deep pocket. It is a case of endoperio lesion. In the true combined lesions, at the same time the perio lesion continues and the endo lesion continues. It becomes a case of true combined lesion. For us to come to the diagnosis of endoperio lesion, always see that the tooth must be non-vital. There will be a very deep pocket present and most of the time the oral hygiene is poor. Because when the oral hygiene is poor, the clinical attachment loss will be present at different sites, and out of those sites, at one site there may be a very deep pocket present that can lead to the endo problem and that can lead to the non-vitality of the pulp present. So this becomes a case of endoperio lesion. Let's say if here it was given 1 1 1 and the rest of the perio chart was same, or let's say it was same as previously. Along with endoperio lesion, if you want to come to another diagnosis, then if we count the number of sites where clinical attachment loss has happened and if we count the total number of sites, so we can say this is a case of generalized chronic periodontitis. Friends, give a look to this case history and the perio chart. Age is same, chief complaint is same. In the history of the chief complaint, it is given bite test is positive. Patient has got 1-5 RC treated 2 years back. Oral hygiene is good. That is, when patient bites on a tooth, he feels pain. 1-5 had a history of endodontic treatment 2 years back. Oral hygiene is good. If you look at the perio chart, at only one side there is a very deep pocket, rest everywhere it is almost normal. Friends, this is a case of vertical root fracture. Vertical root fracture. For you to come to the diagnosis of vertical root fracture, you must have a history of RC treatment done on a tooth. Also, there should be a very deep pocket present. If a pocket of around, let's say 6 was present, then it is difficult to come to the diagnosis of vertical root fracture. But if you see a very deep pocket, let's say 8 or 9 or 10 or 11, something like this, then most probably the diagnosis is vertical root fracture. Also, you have to take care of the additional information. Let's say in case the history is changed to tooth 1-5 is non-vital, oral hygiene is poor, then we can no longer say that this is a case of vertical root fracture. It becomes a case of endoperio lesion, because the oral hygiene is poor and you have a very deep pocket at one side, so this becomes a case of endoperio lesion. Moreover, tooth 1-5 is non-vital as well. For you to come to the diagnosis of vertical root fracture, the history of previous endodontic treatment is a must. In its absence, never ever try to come to the diagnosis of vertical root fracture. Guys, before we come to the treatment section, one topic that was left is drug-induced gingival enlargement. Drug-induced gingival enlargement means when a patient takes or consumes certain drugs, for example phenytoin, cyclosporin or calcium channel blockers. These drugs have a tendency that patient's gums will become enlarged, but there is no clinical attachment loss that will be present. This type of drug-induced enlargement, if you want to depict it in perio chart, it will be something like this. Probing depth will be, let's say 787, 987, 777, 888. Recession, zero recession. Bleeding on probing, it's present everywhere. Friends, if you just look at this perio chart and you don't look at the history, then this will be a case of generalized chronic periodontitis, because the pockets are very deep. But in case in the history it is given that since patient has started taking his medicine for epilepsy, and in the medical section it is given, medicine section it is given, the patient is taking phenytoin. In that case, since history is related with the medicine and perio chart shows you very deep pockets, in that case the diagnosis will change completely, and the new diagnosis will be drug induced gingival enlargement. So friends, in case you want to come to the diagnosis of drug induced gingival enlargement, you must have a medicine out of phenytoin, calcium channel blockers like nifedipine, amlodipine and cyclosporin. In case these medicines are not given and you are given this perio chart only, then the diagnosis will no longer be drug induced gingival enlargement. It will be a diagnosis of periodontitis. Friends, since we are done with the periodontal conditions, now let's talk about treatment. The first part of the treatment is phases of treatment. Phases of treatment. As far as the periodontal section is concerned, we have three phases. One is emergency phase, second is phase 1, and third is phase 2 or surgical phase. Surgical phase. I will talk about all the phases one by one. First phase is first of all emergency phase. Emergency phase means whenever a patient is having any kind of emergency, we treat emergency first, or if a patient is having any hopeless tooth, we extract it. Hopeless tooth. Other treatments that are involved in the emergency phase are occlusal therapy, removal of carious lesions, prescription of antibiotic therapy or antimicrobials. But as far as periodontics is concerned, we will just restrict ourselves to the hopeless teeth. Now let's find out what are the various conditions where we say that the tooth is hopeless and we need to extract it out. First condition is if a tooth is having vertical root fracture. Second, if a tooth is having deep pockets, for example more than 6 to 7 millimeter, along with mobility of grade 2 or 3, or if upper premolars are having furcation involvement. Because when it comes to upper premolars, whenever their furcation is involved, the teeth can no longer be treated safely, so they need to be removed. Another condition is if furcation of grade 3 or 4 is involved, along with mobility grade 2 or 3 is present. These are few conditions in which you need to remove the tooth or extract the tooth. Now let's talk about phase 1. Guys, in phase 1, we perform non-surgical debridement. Basically, there only scaling and root planing is performed, but no periodontal surgery, for example modified Widman flap or distal wedge is performed. Only non-surgical debridement is done. So when a patient comes to you having any kind of periodontal problem, so first of all a dentist will look whether he needs to have any of his tooth extracted. If yes, then he will extract the tooth first, then he will perform the non-surgical debridement, or in other terms we can say he will perform scaling and root planing. Then he will put the patient into the evaluation phase. The evaluation phase is for up to 12 weeks. That is, dentist decides whether the patient needs any periodontal surgery or not. Before he jumps directly to the perio surgery, he first puts the patient into the evaluation phase. Generally this phase is around 4 to 6 weeks, but its maximum limit is 3 months or 12 weeks. Depending on how patient took care of himself in the evaluation phase, dentist will decide whether the patient will go towards phase 2 or he will go into the maintenance phase or into the phase 1 again. Let's say a patient comes to you, he was having bleeding from his gums and his pockets were around 4 or 5 millimeter. So a dentist performed non-surgical debridement. Then after 4 or 6 weeks, when patient came, dentist saw that he is keeping good oral hygiene, that his oral hygiene is good, and the compliance of the patient was also good, that patient was coming to dentist regularly, compliance is good, and his problem is resolved, that is chief complaint is resolved. So when everything is fine, problem is resolved, dentist will put the patient into phase 4, that is maintenance phase. But if the oral hygiene of the patient was poor when he came after 4 to 6 weeks, his compliance was bad, or his problem is not resolved, then patient will no longer put the patient, then dentist will no longer put the patient into phase 4. He will now consider whether to perform scaling and root planing again, or the patient to be put into the phase 2. Friends, when the patient is having poor oral hygiene and compliance is bad, patient cannot be put into phase 2 of the treatment. He will again be put back into the phase 1. As long as patient does not keep his oral hygiene very good, and he does not keep his compliance in a good shape, patient cannot be put into phase 2 of the treatment. But let's say the patient came to you, his compliance was good, his oral hygiene is good, but his problem is not resolved. His problem is not resolved. So now dentist will put the patient into phase 2. Problem is not resolved means that patient has still deep pockets and is still bleeding from his gums, even though his oral hygiene is good and his compliance was good. Then the patient will be put into phase 2 or surgical phase of the treatment. Now let's talk something about phase 2 or surgical phase of the treatment. Basically, phase 2 or surgical phase involves 3 types of surgeries. One is surgical phase or phase 2. It has 3 types of surgeries mainly. One is open flap debridement alone. We can also call it modified Widman flap. Then is open flap debridement with apical repositioning. And third is distal wedge. Friends, if a patient comes to you and you have performed a non-surgical debridement on him, he was keeping good compliance, his oral hygiene was good, but his pockets were still deep. In that case, you will consider which surgery to be performed now because pockets are still deep. Now, how to decide which surgery should be performed on the patient? So, roughly we decide it depending on how deep the pockets are and what is the location of the pocket. Let's say if the pockets are located in the anterior segment of the mouth, anterior segment, for example central incisors and canines, or if the pockets are less than 5 mm deep, and the third one is if the patient is having caries susceptibility, that is patient has a greater tendency towards caries, then we will perform open flap debridement only. But in case patient is having deep pockets more than 5 mm, pockets are in the posterior segment, and patient does not have any caries susceptibility or increased risk of caries, then we will perform open flap debridement with apical repositioning. One thing to notice here, if the pockets are less than 5 mm, whether they are present in the anterior segment or in the posterior segment, it does not matter. We will perform open flap debridement only. Open flap debridement means the dentist will raise the flap, he will clean the root surface of the teeth and will remove all the inflamed tissue along with the calculus, and he will stitch back he will suture the tissue in position. In open flap debridement with apical repositioning, the dentist will perform the open flap debridement first, but he will not suture the gingiva at the same location. In fact, he will do it in a slightly apical positioning. This will help the patient to keep his teeth clean in a better way. So for the open flap debridement with apical repositioning, the teeth should be in the posterior segment and the pocket should be more than 5 millimeter deep. Also, the patient should not be having increased caries susceptibility. The last one is distal wedge. As you have noticed from the name, distal wedge is performed when the tooth in question is the last tooth in the arch and it has deep pocket of more than or equal to 5 millimeter. On the distal aspect, let's say in the maxilla on the right side 1/7 is present, and on the 1/7 the distal side, the distal aspect is having a pocket of 7 millimeter, but at other locations the pockets are up to 3 millimeter. In that case, you will perform distal wedge to treat that deep pocket. Friends, you always have to remember this thing: till the time patient does not keep his oral hygiene good and his compliance in a good shape, we cannot move that patient from phase 1 to phase 2.